side of the deal. How many of you own any sort of investment real estate? As he still is figuring out where the mic is and where the mic will let him stand or not stand. Okay. We don't like that. I gotta stay somewhat close to my Chick-fil-A cup though, otherwise I'm gonna get dehydrated. Alright, so how many, okay, I saw that I saw maybe 60% of the hands, any type of investment real estate. Okay, great. How many of you invest in what I'm just going to euphemistically call paper? 1, 2, husband and wife, 3, 4, okay. Yeah, I saw the back of your t-shirt. I'm sure I figured out you were probably in paper. So I didn't know what all you do with paper. You might enjoy what I talk about tonight. This might be right down your alley. So it's the other side of the deal, how to think like a bank. How many of you have ever been to a bank to borrow money to buy a piece of real estate? How many of you enjoyed the process? How many of you think a root canal was more fun? Okay? Yeah, there we go. Yeah. All right. So I would rather do a bank loan than another cerebral angiogram, but it's close. It's close. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. Let's see if we get the clicker to click.
Just point it this way for me.
Yep, I know. We got to undo the conditioning in my brain towards the slides.
There may be a switch that I turned off.
Well, that is true, because if I move the switch where it says on, it might work better. There we go. Yeah, this session is intended to provide education and entertainment. Entertainment in the form of, here's the guy that can't figure out how to turn on a switch. Okay. It is not here to provide legal, financial, accounting, business, relationship, or psychiatric advice. Okay? If the services of a competent person are required, then go find a competent attorney, expert, whatever. I'm going to show you a couple people who do have some success, but their success is a result of them applying their education in their situation, and so their results are unique to them. That's a pretty quick summary. And by the way, everything here is educational only. I'm not here to give you tax, legal, or business advice. Okay. So I've got two options right at the very beginning. When you encounter something new and you're interested in knowing more about it, you've got two choices. You can either learn the system from somebody who's been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, paid the bills, and so on, or you can be like I was as a beginning investor. Oh, I'm smart enough, I'll figure it out on my own. I'll brain my way through it. They gave me a lottery because I'm smart and I worked hard. I'll just keep guessing. I'll figure it all out. I wasted a decade as an investor with that attitude. Okay? So let's just move forward. A little about who I am. I've been practicing law now. I'm on my 35th year in the state of Ohio. I'm only licensed in the state of Ohio. I live most of the time in Central Florida on the Gulf of America in St. Pete Beach. I'm general counsel to the National Association of Real Estate Investors, a company called Note School out of Texas, and a company called Real Flow out of Ohio. I've been an investor for over 32 years, and I'm a full-time practice attorney actively representing self-directed IRA investor clients. The vast majority of the deals I work on now involve IRAs and notes. IRAs lending money, IRAs leveraging money, IRAs doing all sorts of things. That's a lot of what I do. Now, this way, Jeff. Okay, I have seen pretty much, or made pretty much every do-it-yourself mistake that's out there. I have a long list of things not to do. I think I could put on a 3-day seminar on, let me tell you all the ways I've screwed up. Okay? I'm a Note School speaker and an investor, and I love helping people build predictable monthly income. I love helping people build predictable monthly income. So I have a question for you. How many of you got into real estate investing because you wanted to work harder? How many of you wanted additional stress? Headache? Heartburn? Or was it because you wanted additional income and to be able to build wealth? Is that why you got into real estate? So here's a question for you. Predictable monthly income. Would that help you build wealth? If it was predictable, consistent, low stress, happened whether you walked to the mailbox or not, happened whether you got out of bed or not, happened whether you worked 8 hours that day or 2 hours that day, would that help you build wealth?
Yes.
Yeah, okay? So I don't call almost anything passive anymore because everything requires some degree of diligent stewardship and management, okay? God didn't put us on this planet to just sit there and be a self-absorbing sponge and not do anything. We have a duty to be a diligent steward of the things that we're given. So I don't say anything's passive, but I just like to have it to where I don't have to go out and do it when I don't want to go do it. So if income will show up, irrespective of whether I work for it that day or not, I'm a happy man. Okay? So I like to help people do that. Now, this picture epitomizes one of the key moments in my life. How many of you have ever been at a large real estate conference or seminar and somebody said something to you and you heard the speaker say something and for the next 30 minutes you were just oblivious to the rest of the room because this was one of those things that you've been looking for your entire life? I've had that happen a couple of times. I'm going to tell you about one of them. I had become nationally famous for doing back-to-back short sale transactions, figuring out how to do them, papering up a new way, such to the point that national title companies were writing underwriting bulletins about how to close my transactions. Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae had bulletins and procedure guidelines out there on the only acceptable way to do these things. Banks were cracking down on it because banks knew what I was doing, how I was teaching investors to make money off of their mistakes, and so banks were starting to crack down on this. And it was getting harder and harder to do it, and I had more and more people trying to ask me how to do it. I would have living with a phone in my ear, missing quality time with my 5 kids who are now all adults. And I felt like in that whole business model, I was that little orphan beggar boy. Please, sir, may I have some more porridge? I'm still hungry. And then I'm sitting in Denver, Colorado, a Marriott property off of Pena Boulevard, not too far from the International Airport there, and a guy out of Texas with this funny Mississippi twang in his voice talks about how instead of working with banks on short sales, you can buy the bad loans from the banks because they want to sell them. And it was like the heavens parted, the choir came down, the light turned on, and I was like, you mean I can go from the beggar boy asking for a little bit more to being the bank that makes the decision? I turned my back on short sales and I won't touch them ever again. In fact, I'd break out in an allergic reaction if you asked me to touch one again today. And that's what made me nationally famous. But I never want to think about it, talk to them anymore. Because I had a phone glued to my ear. I was struggling. Banks were not making the deals like they used to. I made some really good short sale deals. Made a lot of money doing short sales. Would find them, fund them, fix them, flip them. It was fun. Okay? But it was drying up, and I had to do something different. So I need to know a little bit more about you, because you know a little bit about me now, and I don't like talking about myself that much. I want to know how many of you are brand new in the business. You've done less than 5 real estate deals in your entire lifetime. Okay? Good. Good. I'm happy you're here. How many of you are like me? You've been a landlord for over 30 years, and you're tired of tenants and toilets and turnovers and trash outs and termites? Anybody? So I'm at lunch today, and I got a really unpleasant text message. One of my long-term tenants, major depressive disorder. I knew he was struggling. Attempted suicide today. I don't like having those things happen. I'm glad that he's going to get the medical care he needs, but that's not the stuff I want, because it brought back flashbacks to when I lost another long-term tenant where he did succeed in that. And after he'd rented for me for over 20 years. And I'm like, this is not good for me. Now, how many of you, I got to know the rest of the room, how many of you are what I would call a deal hustler? You are either fixing and flipping, wholesaling, bird dogging, chasing deals, and just doing whatever you can to make a buck. Okay. All right. Cool. Is there anybody in the room that wakes up in the morning once a week, once a month, flips open their financial records off their electronics, and looks at all the deposits that just hit their bank account that day. Looks at the sum at the bottom and says, nope, there's my month. And they're out. Anybody? Anybody like that? I got some clients that are like that. I am that far away. I'm a couple of deals away of being done. My girlfriend, she just killed another deal today. That girl is amazing. She is 2 deals away from getting out the door as well. Because she and I are talking about one thing. Completely, totally out of the rat race, only deal with stuff we want to do, when we want to do it, where we want to do it from, and that's it. Okay? So now that I know who's in the room, let's talk about the next thing, which is, would predictable income change your life? If yes, please raise your hand. Okay, now here's the question I've got for you. You have to answer this to yourself and only to yourself, but I want you to do it. If you have a pen and paper, pencil and paper, write this down. Write that number down. What is that number per month? What's your number? If you only have a phone, an iPad, whatever, put that in there. What's that number? What's that number? That is your escape velocity. You're done. Okay? And then you got to answer this one question. Is that gross or is that net? Is that after liabilities or before liabilities? Because at the end of the day, you need to know what is the net number. You're done. Okay? What is it? If predictable income would change your life, raise your hand, and a bunch of you did. So that means what I have to share with you today is on point, because this is the one thing I want to talk about tonight. This is about the only thing I want to talk about tonight. Is ways of having predictable monthly income without the hassle, the headache of grinding and marketing and hustling and screening and sorting and tenant calls and management. I want to show you another way of doing this. Okay? Anybody interested in that? Yes or yes? Cool. All right. So you want a predictable monthly income, so you got into real estate. You probably did like I did. You probably looked at family members that I did. I looked at my uncle, George. Never got past the 8th grade. Comfortable, well-off man 30 years ago from rental properties. Today he's probably north of $20, $30 million in net worth in Frisco, Texas. And he just gives most of it away. You know, never got past the 8th grade, by the way. A little bit of a speech impediment, dyslexic, brilliant man. But he was my motivation. So he got into rental real estate. I got into rental real estate because that's how I thought you got predictable monthly income. So I bought houses. Oh, I bought a lot. At one point in time, I owned 3 houses here, 2 houses there, and a 4-plex around the corner. So that little pocket of Cleveland, Ohio, that was my domain. I was the dude. You wanted to live in that area, you had to come see me. Okay? I would fix them up. I'd buy them ugly. I'd fix them up. I would do Burr long before Burr was ever put into a marketing phrase. I can tell you what goes right and I can tell you what goes wrong with Burr. Okay? And then I would rent them. Because I didn't want to sell them. I wanted to rent. I wanted the long, slow quarter instead of the quick nickel. Okay? What I didn't realize is there's some things that happened, that life can get in the way. Okay? So, that's what I did. I had a nice portfolio of properties, or so I thought. I had basically break-even cash flow because I had decided I was going to buy them all with no money down. I'm managing I'm managing working as an associate at a law firm 70 hours a week. I'm running my rental properties. My wife and I have, at that point in time, about 5 kids. And I'm just a little busy. I would work all day. I'd come home and I learned how to manhandle refrigerators all by myself from one unit to the next. Had my appliance dollies, had it all, okay? I could do all that. I've discovered one thing. I was burned out, I was stressed out, and I almost killed myself. Literally almost killed myself with exposure to mold and some other toxins that stuck me in the hospital. All right? So that was the only playbook I knew, though. That was the only thing I'd seen. Okay? I had 2 different uncles. One really successful, one quasi-successful. That's what they did, so that's what I did. Okay? That was what I knew. And I had learned from the very beginning, Jeff, you gotta follow the 1% rule. Jeff, you gotta follow the 1% rule. If you don't follow the 1% rule, you won't cash flow. You can't cash flow, you won't make it. How many of you know what the 1% rule is? Can you follow the 1% rule here in Oklahoma City right now? Is there any market that you know of where you can follow the 1% rule?
The ones you don't want to be in.
The ones you don't want to be in, right, counselor?
The ones that cost you money.
Ones that cost you money. Well, I can tell you Gary, Indiana, okay, that's on south of the south side of Chicago. The 1% rule works there. I got some clients that actually make it work. I got a client that makes it work in Pontiac, Michigan. That's the north side of Detroit. Alexandria, Louisiana, which Louisiana and Real Estate Louisiana is doing this. And a couple other markets. They can make the 1% rule work. Cleveland, Ohio used to be that way. Not anymore. Not anymore. So the 1% rule was if you can buy a house for $100,000 and you could rent it for $1,000 a month, you'd do okay. At lunch today, I got asked, where did I buy my first property? January 6, 1994. How do I know? Because my daughter was like 12 days old. Okay? We had to be a family of 3 in order to qualify for the mortgage. She was born on December 18th. So she was, maybe 3 weeks, okay? So anyhow, we qualified for this thing January 6, 1994. I paid $60,000 for a duplex that I could rent out each side for $400 a month. So does the 1% rule work for that one? Yeah. Absolutely. I moved out of the apartment that I was paying $300 a month in, 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, and I moved into this 3-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, half of the house, downstairs half of the house, and I went from being a tenant to a landlord by signing a bunch of papers. And then I had a tenant above me. And I was like, oh, how do I do now? Okay, so that was the beginning of the process. So how many of you know what the 50% rule is? Anybody else? Anybody else know what the 50% rule is? Let me ask the question a little bit differently. How many of you have ever heard of real estate taxes? Property and casualty insurance, management fees, repairs, maintenance, reserves. Add all that up. That's going to be right about 50% of your gross rent. Right around 50% of your gross rent. Real estate taxes. Taxman is always in first position. I don't care what the bank says. They're always in first position. And in some states, then it's the HOA that's in second position. And then it's the bank. Okay? So the 50% rule is taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs, reserves, and management. Those 6 things should take about 50% of your rent. I've got properties right now where we're fighting to get it down to 52. We're fighting hard to get it down to 52%. Okay, I've got other properties where it's beyond that, and we've sold them. Because that same home I bought for $60,000, I sold it earlier this year for $240,000, because by the time I got done with the new tax increase from Cuyahoga County, and I got done with what my mortgage payment was on my refinance, where I sucked a bunch of cash out to go buy some other properties, and I looked at what my rents were coming in on for both units, and I looked at what my management costs were, even though I put a brand new roof on it, had brand new windows and everything else, I was like, I will have negative cash flow on this thing. Oh, and I still had $100,000 of equity in it. But I had negative cash flow. Because the real estate taxes and the insurance were out of control. So 50%, half of your gross rent allocated to expenses. I wish it was still 50%. It's more like 55 in a lot of places. So I got a question for you. What happens with the other 50%? Pardon me? Yeah. So where do you eat? Yeah. Not good, is it? No bueno. All right, so let's move on. I'm going to tell you, here's what happened. If we look at what happened before and after COVID, we can see that our increase, my income, my rental income, I've been able to get some rent increases, about 20%. But my expenses have gone up 50%. And the big one is taxes, insurance, and repairs. Skilled trades are expensive. There's not a lot of them out there that are skilled. and the materials and parts and supplies that they have to get access to, those prices aren't going anywhere but up. Okay? So you've got to know that stuff. So inflation is drinking the average landlord's milkshake. I know they drank mine, all right? So prices are up and rents aren't moving fast enough. So I've always heard, well, Jeff, you know, single-family rental properties, they're a fantastic inflation hedge. I'm not so sure anymore. I'm not so sure anymore. The voracious appetite of local government, the voracious appetite of insurance companies is killing a lot of mom and pop landlords. So, for rent, okay, great. I fact, that house looks like a couple I owned in Cleveland. All right, tenants, turns. How many of you know what a turn is? Where a tenant moves out and you got to get the unit re-rented? How many of you love turns? How many of you ever turned a unit after you've had a tenant in there for 25 years? I've had to do turns at 25 years and I've had to do turns at 18 years. And I can tell you, you want to talk about worn, beat, needing a complete rehab, that's those units. Taxes, oh yeah. And then maintenance and insurance. The lovely trifectas that are out there. All right? So let's talk more about how we can get around this thing, because I'm just going to ask it. Okay? Who do you think makes more money on a rental? Let's take the county out of the equation. Let's take State Farm and Nationwide out of the way, because they're not a good neighbor and they're not on your side. All right, sorry if I offended anybody. So who's left in the equation? Okay, so the landlord, they might be making 4% on their equity. They might be making 4% on their equity. Are you really happy with making money and making 4% on your money?
6.5.
Okay. You can go stick it in the stock market and make 11 to 15% and enjoy the roller coaster ride. Or you can be a lender. I've seen lenders out there, a lot of fixed rate mortgages at 6.5%, 7.5%. So we'll just say 6.5%. So who do you think's got the better gig right now?
Lender.
The lender. Yeah. Who's got the bigger risk? The landlord. So let me ask you a question. If you don't maintain your property, does the bank get a citation from the county for not mowing the grass? No, they don't. Hey, if you have a tenant that gets drunk and comes home and stumbles and trips and falls and breaks their arm, or like I did, climbs up on the outside of the house to the second floor unit, and then they fall while inebriated and break their arm, do you think he threatened to sue the bank? Do you think he sent a letter to Wells Fargo going, hey, you know, because of your mortgage on this property, I'm going to sue you? No, he sent it to me, you know? So, let's dig into this. What if you thought like a bank? What if we could get inside our heads and turn it from where we think about it as the borrower landlord to instead being the bank owner lender? What would that be like? I think it'd be great. So I'm going to show you how we do that. Are all of you willing to bear with me for a little bit longer while I try and flip that switch? And let me tell you right now, in case you're wondering, there is no credit card machine at the back of the room. There will be an offer. It is for free. It will require you to get out your phone and scan a QR code. Okay? So it's going to require you to scan a QR code. Do you think you can put that effort into it? You think? I know it's tough. I know it is, okay? Yeah, it's a challenge. But I got faith in you, okay? You didn't go to the University of Texas, did you?
Oh, geez, no.
Okay, good. Can I go off script for just a second? My girlfriend went to the University of Texas, and I keep reminding her what this is. And she goes, yeah, it's orange. I go, no. It's Ohio State beat Texas twice in 2025. You know, she paid me back by stealing my Ohio State t-shirt. Yeah. Anyhow, so here we got the landlord, and then we got the lender. Okay? Every buyer has a lender. Which side do you want to be on? Do you want to be the lender or do you want to be the buyer?
Side with the fistful of money.
Pardon me?
The side with the fistful of money.
The side with the fistful of money. So on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, I will walk into a title company in St. Pete Beach, Florida, and I will sign the paperwork to sell one of my rental properties, one of my long-term rental properties, and I'm going to be selling it to my tenant. I'm sorry, not to my tenant. I'm going to be selling it to another investor. And I'm going to go from landlord to lender. And I ran the amortization table on this loan. I'm going to finance $109,900 for 30 years at 9.5%. Okay? After 5 years of payments, how much do you think he will have reduced the principal on that loan?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
$5,000, $3,000.
$5,000. Yep. You ran an amortization in your head, huh? Congratulations. How much interest do you think he will have paid over that 5-year period of time?
$45,000.
$60,000. Who does that $60,000 go to? Thank you very much. Who still owes me $105,000?
Yeah.
What did I sell it for? Oh, by the way, I'm taking a $20,000 down payment on this thing too.
Now, you said investor.
I'm selling it to another investor. Huh?
What investor
He
bought
sold
that?
it to his tenant.
No, I sold it to another investor. He's building his portfolio. He thinks he can rehab it, raise the rents. It's a 1-1 that didn't flood in St. Pete, Florida.
Can I have his phone number?
No, because I'm selling him another one. He wants to buy another one, okay? He's got a high cash job. He's got a job that makes lots of money, okay?
Not for long.
As long as people go to jail, he's got a job. Yeah. Yeah, as long as people go to jail, he's got a job. Okay? So, anyway, moving on. So which side of the deal do you want? I was renting that unit for $1,000 a month. My payment's going to be $924 a month. So Jeff, you're stepping back about $100 a month. Yeah, but I don't have taxes at $220 a month, and I don't have insurance at $150 a month, and I don't have any more maintenance headaches. Who's ahead now? Now, what do you think I could do with that note after he's paid on it for 5 years? This is an advanced class. Emily, don't give the answer. Don't let your husband give the answer either. I saw him leaning forward because I knew he knows the answer too. What can I do with that note after 5 years of consistent payments where I'm still owed $105,000? What can I do with that?
Sell it.
I could sell it. What would I do with the money I sold that note for? Put it into another deal. Put it into another deal. Maybe go buy another house. Because maybe we will have worked through this bubble in our economy to where now all of a sudden, maybe it makes sense to own rental real estate again. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But I want to have the optionality. I want to have the flexibility. And I'm going to show you a way to have even greater options and liquidity choices with paper than with houses. Anybody interested in that? Sounds like I better stop talking and start teaching, huh? All right, let's get after this. So we got a rental. We got net income of $900. We got a real estate note, net income $2,000. You're like, well, what do you mean, Jeff? Explain all this to us. So let's get it out here. So we talked about how you're going to net 2.5 times more money on your rentals when you sell the financing than before. Come on, machine. So here's the 2.5 times framework. You got $250,000 that you have to go deploy. You can go buy a rental property, get a good deal on it, and you can rent it out. You put $250,000 of your hard-earned savings into that property. Okay? You can go rent it out. You're going to net about $900 a month because you're going to rent it out for about $1,800 a month. Okay? So what's $900 a month on a $250,000 investment? What's that rate of return on an annualized basis? Anybody?
7.8.
You think 7.8? Emily, could you run that number? 900 a month.
4%, 4.32.
4.32? Okay, we'll see. See what the boss says. See what the,
Sorry, what's the calculation?
PV, $250,000.
Yeah.
Run it at 240 months. Income payment is $900 a month, and leave my future value at $250. What shows up in I?
No solution.
Oh, you gotta make one number negative. So we'll put the 250 PV at negative. Two different calculators say the same number. It must be right. How many of you are excited about spending $250,000 buying some potential liability risks and making 4.32% on your money? Okay. Well, here's another option. You could take that same $250,000 and you could go buy a performing promissory note in first lien position that's been seasoned on a house that is maybe worth $300,000, and you can collect a payment of $2,000 a month. So, want to rerun that one, counselor?
9.6%.
Which is more better?
Double.
More better? Yep. So, which, I use a little bit of, I get around, I like to use a little bit of Appalachia in my voice every now and then. All right, so same capital, whole lot better return, and which one's got the maintenance calls? Which one has to call the plumbing company to come out and fix? Which one has to worry about termites? Which one has to worry about the roof when it hails? Okay. So let's get into this. Come on, machine. So there's a house. We got two choices. We can go buy the house, or we can buy the paper behind the house. We can rent it for $1,800 a month. Expenses, taxes, insurance, maintenance, all that stuff takes half of our money. And then the rest of it is either to pay us back, or maybe pay the bank that we've borrowed some money from, or the HELOC on it, or whatever. Or we can, over here, get a seller finance note where we're netting $2,000 a month. All right. So why do people love being the bank? Do you like the stress of the rental house? Do you like the risk? Do you want to worry about, do I hold it in a trust with an LLC? What's my structure there? How am I taxed? What do I do with all that? Do you like the lower cash flow, or do you like the fact that there's hard to build a cash cushion? Which one of those things appeals to you the most? Versus over here on the note, you're in first position, right behind the bank. Right behind the tax man. You've got less stress. You've got less risk. You've got more cash flow. And you've got a better cushion. Which one over there on the note column, which one appeals to you the most? It's not a trick question. Cash flow? Okay. Anybody else, the cash, something other than cash flow appeals to you?
The left row.
Did I hear cushion? I heard less stress and I heard cushion. Okay, great. Let's talk about cushion for a little bit. I love the less stress, because I've been doing the stress business for too long. I'm done. Okay? Way done. So let's talk about that cushion. You're going to well, Jeff, where'd the cushion come from? I love cushion, but where'd it come from? I don't like to be living on the ragged edge. I want margin. Where'd it come from? Well, let's walk into this, okay? Let's walk into this. So we got a house, and the house is worth $350,000, okay? And we bought the note on it, and we paid $200,000 for the note. Actually, we paid $250,000 for the note. So where's my cushion? Where's the equity? Who holds the equity? The owner thinks it's theirs, but I'm the lender knowing that that's my cushion if the owner stops paying. And so that should bring the number one question to your mind. And I want to know by a show of hands when I get to that slide, how many have already thought about this question? That's the question. But what happens if they stop paying? How many have already had that question? 2, 3, okay, 5 over here. Okay, great. So I'm going to tell you, that is not a crisis. Let me tell you why, because you're going to have one of three options. One of three options. You got that $100,000 cash cushion, or that cushion of equity, so you don't panic. You got one of three options. They're either going to get caught up. They're going to find the money. They're going to borrow from your 401k. They're going to get somebody else to give it to them. They're going to go work a second and third job. They're going to get caught up. Yay, great. Good for them. They're going to come to you and they're going to modify because they're going to explain, hey, Jeff, you know, I broke my leg at work and I couldn't work for 4 months. And now I'm back to work. Can you help me catch back up? Absolutely. I've done this before many times. I've even had guys call me up and go, hey, Jeff, word is I'm going to get laid off the end of this week, which means I'm going to have a hard time making the next couple payments. Can you work with me? Like, yeah, thanks for calling and telling me in advance. Appreciate it. You know, because you're a man and you called me and we talked about it, yeah, we'll figure this out. We worked it out. He ended up buying the thing. Pay for it. Pay it off. Or we got to go the ugly route. We got to take the house back. We got to go foreclose. Okay, we can do it the easy way, we can do it the friendly way, or we can do it the hard way. You get to pick. Okay? And at some point in time, sometimes I just have to cue up Toby Keith and play How Do You Like Me Now? And we just do it, you know? Okay, but the banks have been doing this for 200 years. So, got a question for you. What names are on the tallest buildings here downtown? Pardon me? If it's not an insurance company, it's a bank or it's an oil company, right? And the line between insurance and banking is getting thinner and thinner every day. All right. So why would someone sell it out? Because somebody's going to have, that's the next question I'm getting asked. Well, Jeff, you know, I took my money and I went and bought this note for $250,000. But I had to buy it from somebody that originated on this house worth $350,000. Why would somebody that sold the house worth $350,000 and put financing on it, why would they want to sell that note? Well, it's like the client I talked to today. I literally got to the rental car just in time for the Zoom call, and I talked to them, and they're like, well, Jeff, I don't have unlimited funds. I got to sell this in order to get recapitalized and get back out and do the next deal. Okay. So what you're telling me is you had money tied up in this deal, you're earning 10 or 9.5% on it, that's cool, but now you got another chance to go make 13 or 14 or 18% on your money. And so you're like, well, let me sell this note, and so I can go make more money. Okay, cool, I get it. That's what happens, because they need capital for the next deal. So we provide liquidity for them. The client lives in California and she's like, yeah, I got more money than I know what to do with. I'll put it to work at 8%. I just don't want to have to babysit it. I'm like, okay, I know who you're dealing with. It'll work. You know? So now I'm going to give you this last thing I want you to think about, okay? We talked about this in the networking session. By the way, I thought that networking session, the way you divided them up by the last digit of your birth year, I thought that was pretty cool. I've never seen that before. So I'm going to talk to you about the perfect storm for note financing. This is the Mortgage Credit Availability Index. I could talk about this slide for 30 minutes, but I don't have 30 minutes. Okay? And by the way, when I get down to where it's I got like 10 minutes left, would you please let me know? I don't want to be rude and keep people beyond longer than what we talked about. All right? But this is a slide that says, hey, all of the institutional lenders that are out there, all of the mortgage lenders that are out there that are helping people achieve the American dream of owning their own home, this is the index of how available it is. And what we see is that back in 2019, we were at pretty much an all-time high. More money, more availability, more people could buy than ever before. And then some things happened in our society. Some things happened in our world. Things shifted and changed. And now we have to where the index went to where now it's barely above 100. And so 40–50% of the people who used to be able to buy a house just 7 years ago can't do it now. Did their credit go down? Did their jobs get worse? Did their down payment shrink? What was it? The underwriting got tighter. Interest rates went up. It became harder to qualify for a loan. It became a lot harder to qualify for a loan. So enter seller financing, because all of the buyers that got left behind, do you think that means that they don't want to have a house anymore? No, they want a house. They want a home. So seller financing is the solution. Here's another example. We're going to take a house and we're going to go ahead and sell it over time. Okay? So it's what we would call a purchase money mortgage or a purchase money note in deed of trust. Where, hey, you're paying me in monthly payments as a term of the sale in order to buy this property. Fantastic. Okay? There's lots of ways of doing it, but I like to do it with a deed, a note, and a security instrument, deed of trust or mortgage. That's the way I like to do it. I don't play the game of, oh, well, we're just going to do this, kind of like unofficial rent with an option to buy or lease with an option to buy. No, I don't play that game. I don't play that game. Okay? I got a law license. I don't screw it up. Okay? I just paper it up and we do it the right way. If you can't give me the down payment that makes it work, if you can't show me that you've got the ability to pay this on time with earnings and your employment history, next, we'll go from there. So, seller financing over time. That is the key. So we take that same house that we could have run as a rental property because we bought it as a rental property for $250,000. Yes, magically we got some appreciation. Fantastic, wonderful. We're now going to take a down payment. We're going to go ahead and sell it, finance it. We're going to start taking payments at $2,000 a month for the next 360 months. That's 30 years. Now, how long do you think that they're going to keep making that payment?
7 years.
The national average is 5 to 7 years. And you know what? I'm perfectly thrilled with that. Because what happens in that first 5 to 7 years? Most of it goes to interest. And who does that interest go to? Poor little old me. Poor little old me. Okay? So I'm good with that. I'm good with getting my equity up front rather than waiting to the back end. Okay? So, what are you going to say? Well, Jeff, okay, I like this, but there's got to be more. Oh, there's more. I wish I could show you guys everything. I wish I could. But I can tell you then, so I go ahead and I sell that house, and I take back the payments of $2,000 a month for the next 360 months. And I've done this. I've sold houses this way before, and all of a sudden I had an alligator at my door. And I had to take care of that alligator, and I needed some cash. And I looked at my bank account, and I didn't have the kind of cash I needed. And I looked around at my balance sheet, and I saw I had this really nice performing note and mortgage on my balance sheet. So what did I do? I called up one of my private lenders. Hey, Carol, how would you like to make 12% on your money? Jeff, what do you got in mind? Well, Carol, I need money. I need about $30,000 in the next 14 days. I will sell you a portion of the payments on this house I sold 5 years ago, and I'll show you where they've been ACHing the payment every month for the last 60 months because it was an oddball payment. And I can show you the pay history. So I sent Carol a picture of the house, I sent Carol copies of the paperwork, and most importantly, I sent her a screenshot of the bank deposits for the ACH, and she calls me back and she says, where do I send the 30? And so Carol gave me $30,000 and Carol got a bunch of payments. Because the thing that sealed the deal is, oh, Jeff, you're keeping the last 6 years of this, aren't you? Yep. So when I get all my money back, then they start paying you directly again. I go, yep. Okay, fine, cool. So we sold a chunk in the middle. We sold a partial. Now you can sell partials like that, Or you can sell all of the front and just keep all of the back. I sold in the middle because I collected a few years, sold a bunch in the middle, and kept the last back half. Or you can sell partials this way, where you sell a part of every payment, and you keep a part of every payment. Now, it depends on what you want to do, and it depends on what your partial buyer wants to buy. How comfortable do they feel? But I can tell you, the more invested you stay in the deal, the more comfortable they are in the deal. So my lady that's in California with 8% money to put to work, she's like, yeah, they got to give me all my money back in 5 years, even though it's a 10-year deal. So that means that the guy borrowing the money at 8% is staying in the deal. So she's cool with that. Okay? So we can go cash now from that, so we can go invest in the next deal, so we can pay off an underlying mortgage. Now, I want you to hear me clearly. Somebody might be going, hey Jeff, this is wonderful. This is really exciting. And I've got a bit of equity in this house because I bought it for $200 and now it's worth $350, and I could sell it and get a nice down payment, but I still owe the bank $175. What do I do? Well, why don't we underwrite the deal the right way? Why don't we set it up correctly? And I bet you there's a bank that'll buy a partial off that note, and you can pay off the underlying $175, and so that you're now holding the first position mortgage that you sell a portion of to somebody else. Oh. Isn't that an interesting way to go from being in debt on a rental property to having no debt but having cash flow? Did you guys catch that? Do I need to walk back over that again?
Yes, please.
Yeah, do it one more time.
Okay, because that was the golden nugget right there. Because we all got into real estate because what did we want? Predictable monthly money. Okay? PMM. Predictable monthly money. But we got tenants, and we got turnover, and we got toilets, and sometimes we have termites, and trash outs, and all sorts of things, okay? And so we're like, okay, I love the idea of being the bank, but I still owe the bank. What do I do? How do I fix that? Well, like I said, maybe you bought the house for $200, you still owe $175, but it's gone up in value, say $325, $350, and you choose to sell it on owner financing. You take the down payment, and you put together the note and the mortgage, and you hire a professional to do it. And the company I work with out of Dallas, they've got the professionals to do all this stuff. And you put together the note mortgage, and you get it underwritten by an RMLO, and you verify your buyer's ability to pay. And then at closing, you sell a part of that loan that you just originated for the $175,000 to pay off your lender that you owe. So you went from owning it and having a mortgage on it to now you're the first lien holder, and there's no other bank involved but the bank and you. You good? Because now you and somebody else are holding the paper, and you guys are splitting each payment that comes in. Or you've decided, I'll give you all the front and I'll keep the back. There's a strategy about that I'll touch real quickly. But that's how you can take some money off the table. You can sell a part of a note. Okay? So you can sell it to where, hey, I'm going to get most of it gone. I'm going to keep most of it, whatever you need to do. But the cash flow is what you do. You can sell off $1,000 of every payment and keep $1,000 for yourself. Okay? You can sell a percentage of the payment. You can sell a partial package of the payments, whatever. When you get to keep the down payment, you can use it to pay down. Whatever you do, whatever you want to do. Okay? So when I close on this deal on Thursday morning in St. Pete, I'm collecting a $20,000 down payment. I'm selling for $129,900, so I'm going to finance $109,000. I have an underlying mortgage still on it that I'm wrapping, and I'm paying it down with that down payment. And then I'm taking all my payments and I'm getting him beat down so that I can get rid of him before my guy matures. So that's how we do it. Okay? Sell part, keep part. Monica's learned how to do that. In fact, Monica's pulled the deal right from underneath my nose in my hometown back up in Ohio because she moved faster than I did. But she won one of her first deals. She pulled in $1,943 a month. Okay? So you can buy someone else's note if you don't want to go, if you don't have rentals, and you don't want to mess with rentals, and you don't want to try and do this, you can go buy someone else's note. There's a lot of different ways to get into notes. There's a lot of different ways. I can't begin to cover them all, but I am going to give you an opportunity to learn a lot more about them in just a couple minutes. But I got to tease you with this last thing. What do I got time-wise left?
You got about 15 minutes.
Okay, I want to wrap up within 15, okay? So, but at the same time, by the way, folks, I am addicted to Chick-fil-A. I literally am addicted to Chick-fil-A. I can eat Chick-fil-A 7 days a week. Sometimes I buy extra on Saturday so I can have some on Sunday. And on the average day, I can drink 3 of those large unsweet iced teas. Okay, so Martha Speed, client of mine, wife of Eddie Speed, founder of Note School, she is the #1 investor I know on doing these deals. She is light years ahead of everybody else out there. And her husband will tell you that. I've heard him tell thousands of people that. She is really good at buying notes. And I'm going to try and get all this to drop in at once. Okay. $160,000 finance at 9%. There's the monthly payment for 20 years. So that's what it looks like on a chart. You got 240 payments of $1439. Okay? Well, we're not going to look at it as $1439 and that's all we're going to do. We're going to do some other things with it because she's doing this with hers, her husband's, her kids, and her grandkids' retirement accounts or educational accounts. So here's what she does. She will get and buy that $160,000 finance, and she'll buy it at a discount. Okay? And so she may spend $140,000 to buy this thing that's got an unpaid principal balance of $160,000. So she's got a little bit of a discount. Okay? But here's where it gets really powerful. She sells a portion of that payment stream, of that $1439, to get back $139,000. So what does she have left in the deal? I should say, what does her IRA or her son's or her daughter's IRA have in the deal? $1,000. What do they also have still in the deal? They've got all those payments coming in the future. Okay? So, I'm not going to walk you through all of it, but here's how she does this. She buys long term and then she sells the front payments. And she might sell those front payments at $1439, 20 years, and she'll sell, we're going to let this machine catch up with me. She spent $140, and she'll sell a bunch of them to get back $139. And all of those remaining payments of $1439, when they mature in a 20 or 30-year-old's IRA, before they hit 59.5, those payments of $1439 start dropping in exchange for that $1,000 long-term investment. Is that cool, or is that really cool?
That's really cool. Who did she find that from?
She
Where
has.
did she find that?
Pardon me?
Where did she find a deal that was already financed for 9% that she could buy for $140?
She and her husband run a company that teaches people how to do this, and they buy, on average, between $10 and $30 million a year in paper.
Wow.
And resell a lot of it.
But who has those? I mean, you obviously had some. I want to buy one of yours.
I'm not selling any of mine. So here's what they do. They have access to large funds that are looking to liquidate. They've got those relationships. Whether it's a fund that's got a bunch of old reverse mortgages, or whether they've got a bank that wants to liquidate other things. They've got the relationships where they start putting pieces together, and they know how to play the middle for their benefit.
But what bank? Who borrowed money at 9% from a bank?
Oh, they didn't borrow money from a bank at 9%. Someone seller financed the house at 9%.
Okay, so she bought a seller finance.
She bought a seller finance note. The interest rate was 9%. The face amount of the note was $160 and she paid $140 for it. Okay? Because the investor who probably sold the note maybe had $90,000 into the deal.
Yeah.
So he's still got $50,000 in Front City National Bank, you know? So he's happy or she's happy, and off they go. And so then she's like, hey, I got this deal paying 9%. Somebody wants to put their money to work at 6.5 or 7, so they'll give me $139 for this much. They'll give them a 7% rate of return, and she keeps the back end.
What happens when that house sells?
Everybody gets paid off,
Okay.
and part of the money ends up going straight into the IRA. Because the partial agreement spells out exactly where you are in the amortization process and how it gets split. She has written she learned this from her dad, and I have worked with her, and she's smarter at it than I am. She's got the best contract. She uses one version for when she's buying and one version when she's selling, and she's got it wired. Okay?
How does it work specifically in this example if the average consumer keeps a mortgage for 7 years?
So then,
that's what you're underwriting.
so what's going to happen? What's going to happen if this guy pays off in 7 years because now he's self-employed, his name's Carlos, and he's finally got 5 years of business tax returns, and the bank loves him and says, okay, we'll give you a mortgage on your house, Carlos. We'll refinance you out. So Carlos pays off the then existing loan balance, wherever it is in the amortization schedule. Okay? And so that gets paid off. And so that might be, so the note says 160. Maybe Carlos has paid it down to 154. So he's got to cough up 154. Now the investors put in 139, but they've already gotten some of their payments back. So they're going to get what's left to bring them whole, and then everything else falls into the back, into the IRA. Did I answer your question? Because you used the word specifically, and my antenna went up on that one. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up real quickly because here's what I'm going to tell you. I can't begin to even start really thoroughly scratching the surface of the stuff that's out there. And I'm going to tell you this, and you're not going to really understand me at first, but if you take my advice and you do what I ask you to do, it'll make sense. Okay? I'm going to just try to get to this one slide. Come on. Come on. Walking you through how the whole process works. I wish I could teach all day on this stuff. In fact, I'm going to be teaching all day in Phoenix, Arizona on this on the 13th of June, if anybody wants to get out there for that. Okay, so I've shown you the what, now I want to show you the how. And that requires you to do this. That's a QR code. And it's going to ask you to scan it. And I need 2 or 3 pieces of information, and then you get access to something from my buddy, Eddie Speed. Emily and her husband, Jason, know him well. Eddie will walk you through the beginning of this, and if you want more, you just keep going down that path. All right? So what Eddie's going to talk to you about in that little bit is why banks make all the money. Why rentals are mathematically broken here in the year 2026. He's also going to talk to you about, if I can point this thing, why appreciation may be a trap for landlords. My Florida properties are no longer appreciating. Why landlords are unknowingly equity rich and very cash poor. Did I hear an uh-huh on that one? Do I get any other amens from the audience? Uh-huh. How about this one? How many of you would like to get paid first? Yeah. So Q&A, this is where you can ask me questions. I'm going to wrap it up. Set a timer for how much time I got left. When we're done with questions, when we're done, we're done. Okay? Hit me with questions, folks. But I got one before I take yours, and here's how I do questions. Guy, gal, guy, gal, guy, gal. Okay? Ladies, no pressure. There's enough of you in the room. The other thing is, when we're done with Q&A, I'm done because I have a very early flight tomorrow morning. I've got a very early flight. All right, so go for it, sir.
How big a market is there owner financing out there to actually buy these deals from? I mean,
It's measured in the billions. The billions of dollars, thousands of transactions.
people, we're.
So there's
gonna be
Paper Stack, Note Expo, DME, APL. Those are the conferences just off the top of my head that I could go to every year on just people buying and selling notes and mortgages. Okay, ladies, one of you be brave and ask a question.
What's your favorite food at Chick-fil-A?
Most of the time it's the 4-count strip, entree only. The fries just add too much weight. In-N-Out has better fries, by the way. The other thing is the market salad. I really like the market salad. That's good. All right, guys, back to you. Emily bailed you out. Yes, sir.
So go back to the situation where you own a property,
Uh-huh.
you got a mortgage on it,
Uh-huh.
you want to sell or finance it,
Uh-huh.
but you got to have enough cash to pay off the existing mortgage.
Right.
And you're saying one way is to bring in someone else to buy part of your note that you're going
Your
to.
brand newly originated note, yes.
Is there a ratio as to what that has to be? Like your equity in it, like 80-20 or 70-30 or 50-50?
I wish I could give you that ratio but it's so fact dependent.
Yeah.
There's a bank in Michigan that loves to buy these, and they don't share their underwriting grid. It's kind of like you got to figure it out through trial and error. And they're going to look at the value of the collateral. They're going to look at the location of the collateral. They're going to look at the borrower's creditworthiness. They're going to look at all sorts of factors as to how much they'll spend to buy that paper. And so you don't have to commit to it, but you can go down that path and say, okay, here's my underwriting file. Here's what my borrower looks like. Here's what the collateral looks like. Here's the appraisal on it. What would you do? And then it's a question of how many payments do I got to give you, and what do I get to keep at the back end? You know, so
Would you
it's
share that bank with us?
running my brain right now to remember of it.
Isn't it the
Yes.
First National Insurance Company?
Yeah, First National, FINAC. But I'm going to tell you, this is the part I love. You call them up and you say, hey, I want to sell you a partial at a closing. And they're going to ask you, which note school class did you go to? And if you didn't, because they're done with the donut eaters and tire kickers and so on. They want to be dealing with people that know what they're doing. Yeah. We got to do the lady first and then you're next up. So get one of the two of them to ask them questions.
They wouldn't do it.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I have no property and no money. How would you suggest to get started?
Fantastic situation.
Don't let her say that she has a Roth already.
$250 a month for car insurance.
Yeah. That's what you need to clear.
Okay,
And she already has a Roth.
so let me ask you a question. Okay, how young are you?
I'm 16.
16. Okay, so that is a little bit of a thing. Do you have parents that that you can work with that will? Okay, great. Because you're gonna have to do things with them for the next couple of years because you're not legally an adult. Okay. Yes, you can drive a car and do all sorts of things and get a job. So what I would tell you is, here's how I would start. This is really important. Go get a good job at a place like Chick-fil-A. I'm serious, okay? Learn the culture at that company. Learn the systems and the processes. See how they solve problems. See how they treat people. Those are skills that will make you money for the next 70 years. And then put your mind on the right kind of material. And I'm going to give you 3 books I want you to read. Okay? I want you in the Bible every day, particularly the book of Proverbs. I think the book of Psalms is also phenomenal. Then the next one is The Millionaire Next Door by Dr. Tom Stanley and Dr. Richard Danko, D-A-N-K-O. Okay? Millionaire Next Door. And then the third book is The Richest Man in Babylon. The Richest Man in Babylon. That is a very easy read, and it will change the way you see money. Okay? Money is not something to make and spend. Money is a tool given to you by God to grow. And so, if you do that, by the time you're 19 and you're saving, let's just set a goal to save 20% of every paycheck. Okay? So you're going to live, give, and save. Because your cost of living is probably pretty low right now. Okay? So you're going to live, give, and save. You're going to save 20%, you're going to obviously give, and then you're going to live on the rest. By the time you're 19, you'll probably have between $3,000 and $5,000 saved. And then at that age, with what you've put in your brain, you will be able to see deals that no one else will be able to see. The smallest note deal I've ever done was $300. I crafted a note deal this evening for a client of mine with just $5,000. Okay, and she's going to double her money the day after it closes. So, there's your answer to your question. Phenomenal question. Phenomenal question. All right, then it was you, because I had you wait for her.
No, that's all right. You can talk to her all day. That's great. As far as the notes, when you buy them at a discount, I know that's where you'll build your value into it. So,
That's sometimes where you build your value, yes.
So like your example is 9%. So with that face value, the APR is 9%, and your discount, do you have a goal for what your discount's going to be as far as what your percentage return is on the investment? As far as, because I know it's so very.
Are you asking what my personal goal is?
Well, just in general, as far as like how much you expect a discount to be realistic.
I'll get what I can, but my personal yardsticks are this. If I'm going to tie my capital up, I need to be making 15%. If I'm going to go through the risk of lending my money and structuring a hard money loan where I'm wrapping somebody else's money, if I'm not making 37% on my money, I'm not interested. How many of you know what the rule of 72 is? At 37%, how long does it take under 72, the rule of 72? 2 years. At 15%, how long does it take me? At 5. 15%? 15 times 5, I'm at 75. Yeah, so I don't put money to work unless it's making 15%. Because I can go do that in the stock market. Vanguard S&P 500 Index gives me 15%. Janus International Funds give me 14.04. I don't have to, and I don't have to do no brain damage with that. You know what I mean? So if I'm not making 15, I'm just not. Those are my personal numbers. Okay?
And is there ever a discount that's too high to where you'll highlight yourself something negatively? To where somebody like an old person that bought a house for $12,000 and you're buying
when you're buying a note from somebody else, there is no such thing as too big of a discount. You're buying a note from another independent business owner. And if they need to sell it, they need to sell it. The question you've got to ask yourself is if that discount starts to look too big, why are they so eager to sell? Why are they so eager to sell? What is it? Is that pay history really accurate? Is that collateral really as good as they say it is? That's when you kind of like slow down, don't let your greed gram take over, and you figure out what's really going on. You know? Great questions. We got to go back to a lady now. Yes, ma'am.
Same question, but I'm 63.
So? So what's that got to do with
I'm
it?
going to go work for Chick-fil-A.
Okay, so what's that got to do with it? What's that got to do? So you're retired?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what's that got to do with it?
So how do I start?
How do you start? Well, where do you want to be? You start by defining what your end goal looks like. So let me ask you this question. What does your ideal perfect day look like in 7 years? You told me you're 63, so at age 70. What do you want on the morning of the day after your 70th birthday? What do you want that day to look like and be like? Write it out. Use words that have color and sound and smell in pictures as you write it out. What does that look like? And then what is it going to take to get there? Because you're going to overestimate what you can do in a year, but you're going to underestimate what you can do in 5 years. And I'm giving you 2 extra years. Okay? So I have watched people literally start with nothing, not be from this country, and in 5 years, they're done, they're out. They have escaped the rat race. They have enough note income coming in now that they can take care of their kids, and they do what they want when they want. Okay? So know what your end goal looks like, know what it costs, and then say, okay, how do I break that down to get that much? So your number might be $9,000 a month to live that way. Okay, I got 7 years. That means I need to figure out how to make an additional $1,500 a year every year. So that's suspiciously like a little over $100 a month. So what can I do this month to add an extra $100 a month to my life, to my income? And spend some time focusing on that. That's how I'd start.
And then use that money to buy notes.
And use that money to grow that money. Now, I'm going to tell you that there is a book I highly, highly recommend. The author of the book is a friend of mine. His name is Chuck Glover. Glover.
Spell that again.
Chuck Glover. Glover. The title of the book is The $5,000 Millionaire. Chuck was 72. Had $5,000 in his Roth IRA, and desperation was his motivation. 5 years of extremely hard work. Chuck is now a millionaire because of doing one type of real estate deal over and over and over and over and over again. He learned how to do wrap lending in the Richmond, Virginia market, where he started with $5,000 and he's now grown to be $1 million. And he started at 72.
Cool.
So it can be done. I've watched it get done.
I got $5,000.
There you go. All right, let's do 2 more questions, sir, and then we'll finish with the lady.
What are the biggest risks like in doing this?
The biggest risks that I see in note investing is not doing due diligence. The biggest risk I see in real estate investing is not doing good, thorough due diligence. Okay? Always peel an extra layer behind. Just because it's somebody you've known for 15 years doesn't mean it's going to be a good deal. So extra due diligence. Always learn how to do good due diligence. Okay? And the next biggest risk I see is failure to keep accurate records. The easiest person for Jeff Watson to lie to about money is Jeff Watson. The easiest person for Jeff Watson to gloss over something with is Jeff Watson. So you've got to have really good record keeping. You've got to have really good due diligence. Those are the 2 biggest issues that I see. Those are the 2 biggest risks. And that means you're going to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your princess. Okay? All right, we're down to the last question.
What are you doing on Friday?
Pardon me?
What are you doing on Friday? What is your to-do thing?
Friday of this week?
You're closing your deal on Thursday.
Yeah. What am I doing on Friday?
Yeah.
Nothing I don't want to do.
Well, that's what I meant. You've got to have an idea what you're doing.
Yeah, I think I've got one real estate project to work on, and I'm probably going to take myself out to dinner. I'm probably going to go to my favorite restaurant in Tampa, Florida. One of the top 10 best independent steakhouses in America. It's called Charlie's. I'm going to sit at the bar. I'm going to engage in conversation with 4 of my friends that work there. And I'm going to have a fantastic meal, and I'm probably going to FaceTime my girlfriend. That's probably what my Friday afternoon evening is going to look like. because I will have gotten that deal out of the way. Yep. Thank you for asking. Yeah. And I've been on the road quite a bit, and I've got another 2.5 weeks of going crazy, and then I've got some time to catch my breath. Oh, I know something else I'm going to do on Friday.
Okay.
Do you know what the Giro d'Italia is? The Giro d'Italia. Okay. Jonas Vingegaard is running away with that race right now. It's a 21-day bike race across Italy. And Friday will be like day 19 of the Giro. And I'll probably sit on the couch in my condo and for 4 hours watch men in tight-fitting clothing ride bikes at breakneck speed over some beautiful scenery in Italy. That sounds like a fantastic Friday morning to me.
There you go.
Yep. And come the month of July, my assistant knows no appointments in the morning. Because Jeff's watching the tour. The Tour de France. Can I name players on, I live part of the time in Florida, part of the time in Ohio. 2 major sports. The Cavaliers, whatever. I can't name them. But I can name lots of guys that ride bikes in Europe.
Why is that?
Because I enjoy riding my bike.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I mean, my favorite, July 13th is a Saturday. I'm speaking Monday in Phoenix, Tuesday in Tucson, and then probably a 5-hour thing on Saturday in Phoenix. And then I'm racing to the airport, getting on a plane, and flying to Florida to be at another conference as an attendee on Sunday. Yeah, that's my life.
You guys enjoy that?
Can you put that QR code back up there?
You mean like that?
Yeah.
How about that? I kind of knew you were going to ask that question. All right. I think I turned the mic off. That's cool. My voice is about done. It's been a long couple of days. I am happy I came, but I'm even happier that you're taking a look at that QR code right now. I look forward to seeing you guys again. Hopefully I'll see you in Phoenix, or I'll see you in Dallas later this year. There's an amazing event called Note Expo. It is one of the largest national note events in the nation in Dallas. I love to be there. I'll be there. Peace.